Before we return to that topic, quickly, we were having a detailed discussion about immigration policy in the context of a government shutdown over Democrats' intransigence on DACA, and wanted to get Pete from Arlington Heights in. Pete, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning. I am a 62-year-old product of an illegal alien. My dad came here in 1949 from Italy, and by about 1950, he was turned into ICE and apprehended and told that he had his day in court. They told him he had to go back. He didn't. He broke the law again. He married an American citizen, and after that, he went in, turned himself in, and they told him, number one, you were told to leave. Number two, we have no record of you coming into this country, so you need to leave. And then your wife can send for you and do it legally. He said, you are absolutely right, and I apologize. He left. My mother did the papers, and he came back legally. So I have written to Durbin, to Duckworth, and to my congresswoman, and they just basically ignore me because I would like them to distinguish between legal immigrants and illegal.
Now,
and they just refuse.
Now, Pete, when was your dad on The View with Whoopi Goldberg?
He wasn't, and I would like to go on The View and let Whoopi know that, don't worry, it's a process. This man has to leave, and he can come back.
Well,
They're
his
making
wife's
a
an
big
American
deal
citizen.
out of this.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, his wife is an American citizen, and he didn't qualify for DACA because he's too old. So they're going to try and work on him coming back.
According to chain migration, he can come back. He has children, and he has a wife that's an American citizen. That is inaccurate that he can't come back. He can.
Thanks for the call, Pete, and your story. Appreciate it.
I really do.
Turning now to the government shutdown and the portion of the conversation on a DACA border security deal. We're pleased to be joined again by our friend Sean Duffy, of course, Republican congressman from Wisconsin's 7th District. Sean, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's great to be with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Paul Ryan said yesterday that, look, we don't want to do continuing resolutions. We pass appropriations bills to avoid having to do continuing resolutions, but Democrats are digging in on and trying to leverage this crisis, in quotation marks, to get a deal on DACA without a compromise on DACA that includes border security. And we're not going to do that, to which, of course, a Time reporter said, I'm sorry, what did you just say? So can you explain where the caucus is on this topic as explained by Paul Ryan and how you think this plays out in the next, hold on, let me check the CNN shutdown clock, the next 16 hours and 18 minutes.
Yeah, tune in for the CNN shutdown clock. Listen, if you look at the Republican House of Representatives, we have had a hard time agreeing on a whole bunch of different issues throughout the last year. I don't agree with CRs. There's some issues that aren't getting done in this funding bill that I want to get done. But this is bigger than a lot of the smaller issues that we have individually. So you saw Republicans last night stand together, and I think 5 Democrats, and vote to pass a CR, short-term, month-long funding bill that also funds the child health insurance program, and we get rid of some Obamacare taxes. We've now sent it to the Senate, and the Senate, in essence, with basically the Democrats in the House of Representatives, have said, we are not going to give you any of our votes unless you put a clean DACA bill in this legislation, which means we want you to give legal citizenship to people who have come here no fault of their own as children, and make them citizens. And our position is twofold. One, by the way, just to take a step back, some of your listeners might say, well, why do you guys need Democrats? You have control of these 2 chambers. Right. Well, in the Senate, their rules are that you need 60 votes to pass this bill. There's only 51 Republicans. So because of the rules, you automatically need 9 Democrats to pass this bill, which means they have leverage to actually shut the government down if they don't give you their votes. And so we're in a position where we say, listen, we want to deal with these kids, but and they're not kids anymore, they're adults. But we also want to secure the border. We also want to end chain migration because of chain migration. Your last guest just mentioned this. The DACA kids who their parents who are illegal brought their kids over illegally into our country. If we make the DACA people citizens, because of chain migration, they can bring in the parents who brought them illegally.
But don't they have to wait 22 years or something?
No, this is all going to change. No.
Okay.
Not 22 years. Now, maybe if you're applying to be a U.S. citizen the right way, you might wait 22 years. But this is going to be expedited, and we bring people together very quickly. And that's just not fair. You put folks who came into the country unlawfully ahead of everyone else who's applied legally and is waiting in line. And so they're putting illegal immigrants ahead of the American people. And by the way, no DACA people are being deported on Saturday, tomorrow, or on Monday. They have at least until March 5th and maybe until June before this becomes a crisis. So Democrats are using this. They think a shutdown is good for them. The left-wing media always takes their side, but we got to do what's right here by way of fixing immigration laws and our border, and we just can't give up as Republicans and do a clean DACA bill because then we lose leverage because Democrats will never secure the border with us.
Well, that's the question, too, is I get your perspective from conversations within the caucus. Are Republicans going to resist the temptation to blink here in this game of brinkmanship and actually hold fast?
Well, we have some people that are in really tough seats, and this is a really big issue for them. And they're gonna join Democrats and say, "Hey, listen, let's get this done." But what you have to remember, though, is Donald J. Trump sits in the White House, and these bills have to be signed by him. And if he vetoes them, they have to come back and get supermajorities in the House and the Senate. So he has to agree to what we do. And he can put the kibosh on any bad deal. And so, I mean, this deal you guys probably talked about, Dickie Durbin, you're a great senator, comes out with an offer to give legal status and citizenship to the DACA kids and really offers Donald Trump nothing what he wanted. The $1.6 billion in the for wall funding? It was $1.6 billion for border security with restrictions. That wasn't talked about very often. Dick Durbin wasn't going to let $1.6 billion go to build a wall. Never. Donald Trump got nothing in that deal. And it's like, does Durbin think the president's stupid?
Well, not to mention, I mean,
smart guy.
And not to mention your colleagues in the Senate. Tom Cotton, Chuck Grassley, David Perdue. I mean, they're not going down for that either.
No. And so this is a moment of truth to say, what as Americans, don't we have a right to look at the policies on our border and say, is it appropriate that we fix it? Is it appropriate that we as Americans get to decide who comes in and out of our country? Or if you pack a backpack in Guatemala and make the trip north, you get to decide that you want to come into our country. We Americans believe that we have that right. And I want to deal with the DACA kids. I want to deal with immigration reform as a whole. I have people in my district who've been there for a long time. They help us on our farms. They're good people in our community. They're good family people. We should help get those people into a better situation with their legal status. The problem, though, is we will never get any additional immigration reform done until we secure the border. Think back to, well, I was not a little kid, but young, but 1986 when Reagan said, okay, amnesty today for a promise of border security tomorrow. We all learned that amnesty today gives you no border security tomorrow. It never comes.
Yeah, right.
Well,
so we want the border security today, and then we can actually deal with immigration reform, which Trump was talking about in that 55-minute open meeting that he had a little over a week ago.
Yeah. What about, giving amnesty to DACA kids or that are now adults with the stipulation that they cannot have their parents become American citizens?
But so here's the problem, Amy. Yeah. If you listen, that's compassionate. I want to get there with those people because this is the country for the most part they've only known. But you're going to be in the same situation if you don't secure the border, if you don't build walls and put sensors and more boots on that border. We're going to have this same debate 10 years from now because a whole new generation of people are going to come across the border illegally. They're going to bring their kids. And then a next generation of politicians will say, well, oh my gosh, this is the only country they've ever known. And we have to have another fix for these, quote, kids. See, it never ends. Unless you fix the problem, it'll never, ever end. It's one generation after the next. We do the same thing over and over again.
I want to get your reaction to news yesterday that your colleagues on the House Intelligence Committee authorized access to the rest of the House to a classified report that was described as detailing concerns with the conduct of top FBI and Justice Department officials, generally speaking, as well as the agency's handling of the surveillance program. Mike Conway from Texas, Conway saying, we have concerns, FISA concerns that all members of the body should know. Do you have any sense of what we're going to find out? Mark Meadows went further in saying the public should see this as well.
Yeah, so I'm actually going down in an hour and 10 minutes to review that document. I didn't have a chance to go in yesterday.
Okay.
But I think what you're seeing is shock and outrage by those members who have read the memo. And I believe this is, if you recall, when we had subpoenas that were out there, Devin Nunes had subpoenas that were out to DOJ and FBI. They were out there for 4 months. They didn't give us the documents. They didn't comply with the subpoena that came from the House until the House threatened that we were going to hold them in contempt of Congress.
Right.
And then they didn't say they'd give us the documents, but they let our investigators go look at all these documents, and those investigators put this memo together. And I think what you're going to find, I think I'm going to find in just a little bit, and what everyone else has talked about on television, is that there was high-level corruption at the DOJ and the FBI that involved an American presidential election. And if that's what I see, I too am going to join my colleagues and call that these documents be released, because the only way you fix these problems is through public pressure to say, we in America, this is not the way we operate. We don't want these kind of partisan hacks that try to undermine the authenticity of my vote as American citizens. I don't want them there. And the only way you get them out is when the public calls for their ouster. And the only way they'll do that is if they see these documents. And I think that's why those who have looked at the memo are calling for its release, because that's how you clean out the FBI and the DOJ. And you guys know this. We give them incredible power because we want them to help keep us safe. And we want them to have these tools that can surveil and tap. But if they turn that and use that for domestic purposes and they use it for political purposes, now the system is rotting, and you have two choices: clean it out and let them keep the power, or you take the power away from them. If you take the power away from the FBI and the DOJ to surveil, then we're more at risk for another 9/11-esque attack, and we don't want to go down that path.
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be interesting to see what comes from that report, and if it's we ever get to see it, us rank and file plebes out here on the hustings. I want to get to, before we let you go, your take on this, that state Senate seat that was lost in Wisconsin. That Scott Walker suggested that legislative seat loss in a district that Trump won by 17 points. That's a real wake-up call for Republicans who've lost 36 legislative seats in the last year. President Trump yesterday in Western Pennsylvania campaigning for a Republican running in an open seat special election March 13th. In Western Pennsylvania, and where you guys are as the pronouncements are made that the era of Republican control of the House will come to an end in November, and we're facing the inexorable return of Nancy Pelosi to the Speaker's chair.
So here's what happened in that Senate seat, which is up in my district in Wisconsin. Republicans haven't left the Republican Party and become Democrats. They haven't said, oh my gosh, I hate the at least $2,000 I'm going to get in my paycheck, or the bonuses that are coming to Americans, and so I'm going to be a Democrat now because I want to pay more in taxes. Or, oh my gosh, I'm so angry that we've crushed and defeated ISIS. I want the rise of ISIS back again. I want to see more videos of them decapitating their captors or burning people alive. That's not what happened. What happened was Republicans were motivated to turn out. Democrats in the resist movement that you see even in Chicago that are frothing at the mouth, they were motivated to turn out. And so if you look at a traditional November election, Democrats got about a third of their voters to turn out in that Senate race in Wisconsin, and Republicans got a seventh of their voters to turn out in that election because Democrats are more motivated. So this was an enthusiasm issue, not a transition of people who voted Republican who are now voting Democrat. And I think that's what's happening. The Republican base is not motivated. And back to our prior conversation, if Donald Trump and Republicans cede this territory and just give Democrats DACA alone, you're going to see the air come out of the Republican balloon and people not be motivated to show up. But if we stand up and fight and fix this the right way, and Donald Trump continues to message, and Republicans are motivated, we're going to be just fine. Right. Not a big issue for us. Now, but I'll tell you, we do have some issues in some suburban areas. We do have some folks who have left the party. They're frustrated with maybe the language from President Trump. But I think when they see their increased paychecks because of tax reform and if we can fix the border security issues, I think they're going to stick with us in the next election, and we are going to do all we can to keep Nancy Pelosi away from that speakership gavel.
All right. He is Sean Duffy, Congressman from Wisconsin's 7th District. Sean, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, you guys have a good morning. Thanks for having me on.
You too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what